colleagues, we begin the briefing of spokesperson of ATO, Colonel Lysenko. He will update you about events in ATO area. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. During the last day on the territory of Donetsk and Luhansk regions, there continued active battles between pro-Russian militants and units of ATO forces. Daily, there is intensive movement of through uncontrolled areas of cargo trucks and cargo trains from Russian Federation, and they deliver military the ammunition, arms and munition, illegal armed formations. They intend to continue offensive towards Volnovakha, Donetsk, and Debaltsevo. And Ukrainian military men hold their positions well. As to the information of command, north militants shell upon living quarters and infrastructure of Luhansk region. From Grad system, they shelled upon Luhansk TPP and Shasta city town. Ukrainian artillery fought back and stopped them. Near Shirokine, Volnovakha district militants made an effort to storm upon attack the positions of Ukrainian paratroopers. Our militarymen fought off all the attacks. The terrorists from Sakhanka shelled with a Grad system upon checkpoint near Sartana. And as a result, they damaged 3 cars, and fortunately nobody was wounded or killed. No casualties. Efforts is very expensive. Attacks are very offensive. Attacks are very dangerous for militants, and about 190 of them were destroyed. And also, 80 officers destroyed Buratino heavy system for vehicles, and 8 armed vehicles of pro-Russian illegal formations, and 4 cars for cannons. Because of fights, we lost 5 Ukrainian military men. 29 were wounded, have wounds of different level. Terrorists continue to distribute disinformation in order to scare Ukrainians and to encourage their militants. Then in groups using pro-Russian media actively spread not true information about the destroyment of a column of Ukrainian equipment by the so-called Air Force. That's an effort of militants to sell what they want for reality, and there are no pilots in the bandits. Yesterday, Ukrainian bodyguards noticed 3 drones used by militants, and that was for reconnaissance near Marinka, Debaltsevo, and Mariupol. Also, they noticed reconnaissance along administrative border with Crimea. Our bodyguards observed Mi-8 helicopter near Berdyansk, and Kherson bodyguards units and militants continue ruin and loot Donbass. As a result, there is no electricity in Hirsk and Zolote, and in Popasno they damaged gas pipes, and also 12 private buildings don't have gas supplies, and just there is no water supply at all. At the same time, Ukrainian repairing groups they repaired electricity lines in 7 towns in Termen district, and in Novomarievka, Svobodne, Dersove, Chomak, Shevchenko, Tavrichiske, and Mykolaievka. State Service of Special Communication and Protection Information informs that yesterday technological ground of in Donetsk telecommunication office of Kyivstar was captured, and the operator lost connection with the Donetsk office, and Kyivstar company decided to stop providing telecommunication services on those territories of Donetsk and Luhansk regions that are temporarily are not under control of Ukrainian government. Now, the company Kyivstar is trying to get access to their office in Donetsk, and they will put all the efforts for renovation of communication and solidity or integrity of the network. We continue to evacuate civilians from pre-front cities from Debaltsevo and Svitlodarsk. Yesterday, we took away 206 people, including 20 children, and from Adivka, 82 people, 12 children among them. The Baltsevo police saved the family, which was under the ruins because of the shelling of terrorists. The policeman found two old people and a girl. They were very weak because for about 4 days they were without food and water. They were provided with the assistance yesterday to the Baltsevo. We sent 6 tons of drinking water, 1,500 loaves of bread, 30 boxes of food, for 16 rolls of polyethylene film, and petrol to fill electric generators, because of generators that were provided by Ukrainian saviors or rescue groups. There are schools and hospitals and they in operation, and also we think about how to provide more of such generators, energy generators. Ukrainian special services continue to destroy terrorists and infiltrators. Counterintelligence of SBU disrupted the organizing of armed division in Kiev, near the parliament. One of them is Chernobyl. He's colonel from General Staff of Armed Forces of Ukraine, who built the network of betrayers or traitors. He gave information on Ukrainian artillery to terrorists, and for those to shell upon our units, and that's why we had losses there. Provocator and betrayer who was ordered was called Semenovich by Russian curators or leaders, and he brought information about dislocation of Ukrainian armed forces, and to Meleshko, who had a nickname with 13, then that came to artillery brigade of terrorist economies. His BU found arsenal of weapons and cartridges to small arms, grenades, improvised explosive devices, and also booby traps prepared to be installed not far from Molnova. SBU officers arrested in form of upload, so-called DNR with the nickname Modedir. He collected information about dislocation, movement of Ukrainian armed forces equipment, and also about the placement of block checkpoints, and he provided that information to his leader, Tikhon. Also, operational groups of counterintelligence of SBU not far from Krasnoarmeysk arrested 2 informers and correctors of the fire terrorists who collected information about units of armed forces of Ukraine near Ocheretina and Tonenka. In Odessa region, counterintelligence arrested a citizen of Ukraine, philosopher, with the nickname Philosopher, and he entered illegal military formations with weapons. He was on illegal checkpoint near Konstantinivka. He participated in attacks upon state institutions and also in killing civilians. Terrorists who shelled upon Mariupol, they will not hide from punishment. During this special operation, SBU destroyed 11 militants involved in a terrorist attack on the 24th of January. Among the arrested terrorists, one of the leaders of DNR, and who gave an order to artillery crews to shell upon civilian districts in the city. Ukrainian patriots continue to support our military volunteers from Donetsk and Dnipropetrovsk presented to Ukrainian border guards two drones could be in the air for 1 hour and to do online translation to a special screen or a computer, specially equipped computer during the month. Border guards in Odessa, this unit they were using how to use those drones, and the use will allow to to have observation upon better and also without and to have recognizance of the situation, and that will save a lot of lives. Psychologists, volunteers started to provide a course psychological rehabilitation of military men of National Guard of Ukraine. Participants were too for military men who spent a lot of time on the front line during a week. Civilian professionals will work in all military units of National Guards in Dnipropetrovsk and Kryvyi Rih, where they will they'll inform all on basics of psychological rehabilitation of military men, and we continue rotation of 80 in 81. 30 experienced, well-trained policemen from Kharkiv. They went to the east of Ukraine to do an important job on protecting public order and to stand against terrorism. And colleagues, families, volunteers, and those who care about the life of their people and life of a future of our country. And Ukraine pays tribute to those who defend our country on the front line. Oleg Ivachnyuk, and who was ordered with a medal for a military service to Ukraine. In the morning on last year, on July, he got into a trap and risking his life when he was evacuating his friends. He was wounded. Now he's in Kiev Institute of Traumatology and Orthopedic. And the international community helps Ukraine in difficult times. Yesterday to Kramatorsk, Kramatorsk received humanitarian aid from the Department of High Commissar of UN on Refugees, and there's some underwear and sheets, blankets, etc. And it will be provided to IDPs in Kramatorsk. Drushkivka Konstitutivsky General Secretary of the UN, Mr. Gimon, he supported the proposal of the acting head of OSCE and Ivica Dacic about a temporary ceasefire near Debaltsevo and evacuation of civilians from that town. That's all information. Please, your questions.
TV channel News 24. There has recently been information that Kyborg was discovered under the debris in Donetsk airport, and he's now in the hospital in Kiev. The information hasn't been confirmed, but we know that this Kyborg is in this hospital. We first of all would like to ask you, do you know anything about that fact? And secondly, do people in the general staff of ATO plan or do reconnaissance or are they looking for our missing servicemen under the debris? There is information about this rescued servicemen. As to searching for our servicemen who are under the debris of the airport, that is impossible now because the shellings continue, and it is impossible to bring the heavy weaponry there and heavy equipment to take people out of the debris. Good afternoon. We have information from Battalion 25 Kievskaya Rus. They state that near Nikishina they are surrounded by militants and they have just small arms. What do you know about that? When have you received this information? I cannot tell you about today. in general, how can you characterize this week talking about intensity of battles compared to the previous? Yesterday there were 72 shellings during the day. We understand that you cannot always measure that in figures, but from your point of view, is there any trend to stabilize the situation compared to the previous week? We can say that the intensity of shellings has somewhat decreased, but it's not that big to be able to say that we are getting closer to times when it was possible to talk about the ceasefire regime. The most active are the most active the Baltsevsky direction, the south and the east. Станиця Луганська and Счастья, but if you take it in the if you compare the first place talking about the attacks is the Baltsevsky direction, talking about the shellings. The second would be Stanitsa Lugansk, and the third one, talking about intensity, it's southern direction. There are shellings, and we observe attacks. Even the general picture talking about intensity of attacks and the number of attacks has reduced significantly. That could be explained by the fact that our military have caused a lot of losses to the enemy, and the enemy suffered great losses, and also they do not manage to get all that ammunition to the front line, because even though they fix the crossing of the convoy with ammunition across the border, that's not the efficiency or the intensity which could really harm our troops. We have not just learned how to combat, but we attack or we do attacks in advance, and if we see the concentration of troops, then they are shelled. We shell at these troops. We also get a lot of information from local population who already understands who shells them, who shoots at them, who shells at the peaceful regions, and so we have enough data from local citizens about what is concentrated and where was the convoy, so that you understand. Even children record that on video on mobile phones, and they send this information via internet. I haven't heard today anything about Vuglegirsk. Has the situation changed there within the last 24 hours? Who controls this settlement? Do you know anything? They say that there are dozens of peaceful citizens killed there. Are our servicemen attacking there, fencing Vuglegirsk, just like other settlements in the Baltsevsky direction, are being shelled? The situation hasn't changed there significantly. People who would like to leave the city, we meet them, and we are trying to provide transportation for them to take them into safe places. So that is why we do not see any changes in these areas. Who's controlling that? Vuglegirsk, who's controlling Vuglegirsk? Part is under the control of militants, part under the control of Ukrainian military. Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Lysenko. The next brief